All right, so Jeff put together a few numbers for the semester of just some numbers on the live stream, so you get a sense of this. And by the way, it's really I get emails every day about the class, people that are watching the class, people that are watched. Yesterday, this morning, I woke up. I get it from all over the world. I got an email from some sociologist in Switzerland who watched the class a couple weeks ago and just had some comments on the class. And so, what the important thing is, I really can't overstate how valuable it is that you are willing to come up here and volunteer and just be part of this bigger conversation, because people do enjoy it and they use it. I heard someone the other day was watching one of the classes from earlier in the semester. Someone told me, somewhere in Ohio, that they were watching it in their high school class, as a way to stimulate conversation. So it's really cool. So kudos to all of you on that. And wait, hang on. Can we have a round of applause to all the volunteers and the stream team and Darnisha and everybody, man? It's so cool. So I always feel warm. Anyway, let's go through some of the. Okay, so about 220 people in the classroom, either up here on the table or raising your hand, and so that's cool, awesome, and guess. The most talkative, 31%. All right, that's cool. I like that. Most people. Pennsylvania, however, New Jersey, New York, California, South Carolina had some representation. Okay. Internationally, the Saudis in the house. So, okay, that's cool. I like that. Over 12 million people joined in our conversations through YouTube. And most popular video has 428,000 views. Was from class 7. All right. Last semester, we had one that had 5 million views. We had one class that had about 25 million views of the footage last semester. So it was how accurate are stereotypes about whiteness. Oh, that's cool. Another one that really did well, that one from Korea, or from India, where we called it the Indians. I'm getting lots and lots of, I continue to get a lot of stuff. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so you see, it's people who are older, who really want to kind of peek in on the class, and that's cool. I appreciate that. And all right? Go ahead, next one. Mostly men, right? That's common on YouTube for something like this. Anything that's a little bit political or a little bit something, it's definitely weighs toward men. All right. And those are the top countries that are watching. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. So during class, if you don't know, people watching can submit a question for the class. And then, as you know, we've popped up, we throw a bunch of them up on the screen, but we don't get to all of them, obviously. So that's pretty cool. So a lot of people have questions, but we ask specifically, if you want to ask a question to the class, you have to, use this hashtag. All right. And Instagram, right? Yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. All right, we're now the second largest academic. Oh, the Instagram account at Penn State, besides the main account. All right, that's cool. And we have 1 million likes on TikTok. Yeah, all right, there we are, man. Yeah. So this is thank you for the stream team, man, on their behalf, because it's cool. It feels good. And again, I really want to say that, the intention here is to have conversations, and that's the vast majority of people. Even though sometimes, people write snarky, stupid things in comments, as many of you do when you watch videos, the fact is that people are really they're interested in hearing what you have to say, and given the kind of conflict that we're in the world, I think it's really important that we show that. All right, man. Let's do the quiz, and then let's start. Jeff, thanks for putting that together, by the way. Do you want to start? Okay, we're good. Hey, all right. So, one thing I like to do on the last day of class is take questions, and but I'm not going to be here on the last day, so we're going to do it today. And I thought it would be really nice to pick out some volunteers who didn't have a chance to volunteer. Some people who filled out the form didn't have a chance to volunteer, and just said something that kind of caught my eye. And asked them, hey, if you have a question, to come up and just ask your question. Think about what you would like to ask, and so I'm going to say it here. I don't think we're going to get through the people that we've selected, and we're going to take a couple from the stream. So if you got a question from the stream, and including personal questions are fine. We're going to take a few from the classroom and from the stream. But bro, all right. Wait, bro, hang on, man, hang on. You guys got that?
Totally not, no.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, I'm Doug Souderton, Montgomery County, PA. My question was about the death and dying. I was raised non-religious, and now I'm basically atheist. And my kind of I'm juggling a bunch of different ideas as to what happens after you die, because every time I think I have it, something else comes up, and I'm like, okay, well now it doesn't make sense anymore. And so it kind of ties into spirituality and the religious aspect of it, because my thought at first was that it just all goes dark, nothing is there afterwards. But then at the same time, I think of having a concept of time, and time passing. Once you die, you wouldn't have a concept of time. So it's like when people go under anesthesia, or if you go to sleep, it's not like you don't perceive yourself sleeping for those full 8 hours. You just kind of go to sleep and wake up like no time even passed.
Yeah. So are you wondering what I'm thinking about this?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Huh.
Do you have a definitive answer that you would say happens after you die?
No, dude. And if you ever encounter anybody that has a definitive answer, you can assume they don't have a definitive answer. Even people who die and return to their bodies, I obsess about these stories. In fact, I will say that it's probably the most common thing I read about, and I I watch videos about. I'm so fascinated by people who die and come back, okay? And it seems like there are a lot of common experiences that people have, but there are also many, many differences. And the common experiences, they're shared. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter whether you're an atheist or a theist. It's just people have the same experiences, which leads me to sociologically think that this kind of thing goes beyond religion. Religion is a thing that human beings create. We create it according to what we see, what we need. And, once there's a movement toward a certain belief system and there's enough people, then they just follow it, which is fine. I mean, it's good. Yeah, but I definitely, I obsess about it, I think, or I don't obsess, but because when you get to a certain age, first off, I watched my dad die when I was 9. So like that, from that moment on, I knew death was coming, right? And one time, yeah, fuck, oh man. Yeah, like, I can't explain how much, man, dude, my mind's just spinning. Look, my life I've had, every experience in my life leads to right here, okay? I was in the rural Ecuador one time, and I was with a priest, and it's a really, really poor parish, and some people brought their infant to the priest for last rites, right, for a prayer, and it was going to be last rites. And, like I watched as they held the baby, and it was so poor. This was such a poor region. And I watched the baby, I watched the life leave the body of that child, that infant. And when you see just death in certain, those things come, right? I can't explain how much it anyway, I don't know what happens, but I do know that we anthropomorphize. We can only understand things from the perspective of us as humans. So that's why we talk about a God who thinks and sees and feels like we do. We call the God he or she or whatever. We can only do that. You can't imagine a creative force that's not embodied. You can't, So we do that. Right.
I mean, kind of going off of that, that's why I'm I say atheistic, but I'm also kind of agnostic, because in my mind, if there is some higher being that wouldn't be seen by our or wouldn't be able to be comprehended, then there is no chance of me being able to see that thing.
Dude,
so
you and I agree completely. And the reason so many of our religious texts, they anthropomorphize a God, they make the gods appear as though, or they talk about the God, the creator, as like us, because there's no other way to talk about it. It's like a Star Trek episode where the life force was just this crackling energy, and it's you just can't do it any other way. So, okay. So for me, you can't, energy, everything that I come to understand about life is that there's an energy that we're all connected to and that I'm connected to, and I don't know what will happen when this whole thing, when I leave my body. But I can't even say I look forward to it because it's irrelevant, but I'm not afraid.
And then it's would you even experience it? Because after you die, will you still have consciousness? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know that, man. That's the problem. Because a lot of people, you don't know, because no one's ever been able to say. There are people who die and then they come back to life, but no one's ever died and stayed died and came back, you know.
And like, I have a lot of scrutiny because of how I was raised. Whenever I hear about any religious experience that somebody has or like a spiritual moment, I deep dive into that, because in my mind, it's just things that their mind has shown them. Like, it's things that they did experience, but there's like, for me, there's a reason how they experienced it or why they experienced it. Like, if that makes sense. Like, one of my friends said, like, he saw what he thought was his God. And I'm not gonna deny it in front of them or say like, oh, you're totally wrong about this. But just the way that I see it is that that's just like a trick that his brain played on him, or like something that was manifested by his
so
thoughts.
I wouldn't take that step if I were you, because you don't know that. When none of us know, and the moment you say that's just a trick that their brain played, you're talking about something that you don't know. None of us know, and that's the mystery of it. You see, the most difficult thing to do in life is stay connected to the mystery. And because our minds just start going elsewhere, and then we lose the mystery. Whether it's watching a rose petal open, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. Just stay in the mystery. And what we do is, once we start writing things down and celebrating collectively as a group, like through some kind of religious experience, we immediately walk away from the mystery. And that's just kind of, that's the unfortunate thing about that. But it's also a good thing, because it's nice to worship, so to speak, with other people. But I've had enough experiences around the world with different religions and different people who are in the mystery that, wow, man.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing, I'll never stop like thinking. I'm never gonna be like dead set on a value that like nothing will change my mind. I remember one time you said like, if someone came up here and had a completely opposite opinion to something you cared so deeply about, like, would you even listen? And I would totally listen, because like, I feel like every idea should be challenged in some way.
Yeah, cool. All right, cool. No, I hear that. I think it's good. Every idea I have, I challenge. I'm always waiting, and I won't know till I'm gone. And I'm a teacher, right? So one of the saddest things for me about being alive is that when I die, I'm a teacher. When I die, I won't be able to come back and talk about it, but it won't matter because I'm dead. But you know what I mean? But that's the thing. And it's like, fuck, man. Like, you know what I mean? I want to the coolest thing in the world to teach about, and I will never be able to teach about it. So, but maybe I'll have another life. Maybe I had another life, and that's why I'm a teacher in this life. So, yeah. Dude. No, I'm good. How are you? So one of the things you wrote in your piece was that you're learning how to not be right all the time.
Yeah.
Has this class helped you with that?
Yes.
Cool.
There's been a lot of times where I come in here and I'm like, what are they talking about? And then 10 minutes go by and I'm starting to think like, those topics that I've been pretty rigid on have been more malleable.
Oh, dude, fuck, awesome, man, awesome. Yeah, that's cool. I've done my job then. Well, they've done their job. You've all done your job, so cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah. That's such a cool conversation. Dude, you know what? That's probably like the only conversation that matters, really, in a way. Yeah, I don't know, man. Okay. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Sua. I'm a digital arts major, and it's my sophomore year right now.
Okay. And you're from Seoul?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your question?
I recently, in my other class, I learned about code switching, and I was just wondering, like, how do you know if someone code switches, they're being appreciative or appropriative?
Ah. Dang, man. Huh. You don't. Like when I code switch, like when I go to your country and I code switch, I act in ways that are not how I act here. I act different. I act in ways that it's a little more appropriate for my environment. I don't think you do know. You can't know, and I don't think it really matters because what we want is for people to, like you have it like with nunchi, right? You read the environment, you read a room, and you try to operate according to how you think how people are in that room, and you're just constantly measuring your actions, right? Is that how you would you say that, is that how you would define nunchi?
Yeah, I think with nunchi, like I also use code switching. I think it depends on like the atmosphere I'm in or like the environment.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just wondering, like, if people code switch and they become offended, like, how does that?
Well, you don't worry about that, right? Like if you're trying to balance yourself out, and then somebody else doesn't like that, you don't. I mean, there might be the moments when that becomes a problem, but you can't worry about it because our job as human beings is to look around the room. This is my take on it, right? We're social creatures, so we want to get along with other people. We want to engage other people, and we want other people to be able to engage with us. So we're constantly measuring who we are and what we are according to others around us. And if we don't do that, it becomes this. We have this term called sociopathology. Like you're just socially inept and awkward and just like, creating bad vibes.
Do you think that code switching is really different from other for other countries or like for depending on people?
Well, people started using the word code switching. I'm speaking about code switching in the most sociological way, but people use it often as a way to say, look, people started using people of minority status in some way. They use it in a way that allows them to blend in positive ways or not be treated in a certain way, that kind of thing, right? So everybody does that. Everybody does that, right? So that's the nature of it. And when we have people that, if we have a situation in which somebody has to code switch in order just to get along, like for example, speaking a certain way, like in order to be seen as being semi-intelligent or whatever, you have to speak in a certain way. That's worthy of sociological critique. Yeah, I would say that. Like if you have an accent, if you're from Korea, so let's say you don't actually, you speak English without an accent, but let's say you do, but you're up here now with a microphone and you have to try to really not have an accent, because if you do, then people are gonna perceive you in a negative way. Well, that's a problem for them. It could be a problem for you, but at the same time, then you have to say, well, is it really a problem? I mean, these are all the questions that come into play, Should you have to do that? Well, you don't have to do it. Should you?
Can I be more specific?
Go ahead. Hold it.
If I were to be more specific, like I was in a class, it was an African American class, and we talked about AAVE and BVE, which is like African
American vernacular. Yeah.
So like, I feel like in terms, like if I come from Korea and if I code switch, I don't know if that could be like I don't think I would see if someone came to Korea and they code switched. I don't think I would perceive it any like negative way, but like if someone came to Korea and used slang in a way to fit in, right? And then how you would say, like, how would that be for you? Would that be okay? I mean,
they use Korean slang to fit in.
I would.
Okay, so let's look at African American vernacular. If you'd use African American vernacular, you use something, right? And you're in a situation where there are black people, only black people, and you use it, and African American English, let's say, right? You some people are going to say like, okay, that's cool, and other people are going to say, oh, that's not cool. Well, okay. Like, who's right? See, the problem is what we've done as a society for a long time is we followed the people who say it's not cool. Because anybody who says it's not cool, like, we have to follow them, because if we don't follow them, we might be perceived as racist or insensitive or whatever. But like, you don't have to follow them. Follow the people who say it's cool. Why don't you follow them? Why wouldn't we? You know what I mean? So you're always going to find somebody who has a problem with anything. So in that case, right? Does that make sense? But in Korea, that's not a big issue, because here, Black Americans have experienced, Black Americans, many Black Americans are highly politicized and highly sensitive to the ways in which Black people have been discriminated against in pretty serious and significant ways. And so, like, some people are like, yo, hang on, right? Like, you don't have that in Korea. Well, you do with Japanese and Koreans and Chinese, but mostly you don't have the same thing. So it's a little bit different. And then the more you get into these conversations, the more you understand that it's different for each group. And that's fine. That's good. Does that make sense? Like, don't get hung up. Like, don't ever listen to a single voice of a single person. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I do.
Yeah. So the other side is, there's like going to be a difference, like code switching and like maybe making fun of or pretending or something like that. But you just have to know who you are and what you are. I think that there are a lot of people who are just going to see the negative in things all the time, and there are some people who are going to see the positive in things all the time. So you just like, you weigh it. Is that cool? Does that make sense? That's a really complicated question, and I just gave a really even more complicated response. But it's a cool question. And it's what's interesting is that this person from another country are coming here. You're taking a AAAS class, right? An African American Studies class. Yeah. And then you're having these kinds of conversations. And that's what growth is, man. That's what school is. That's what this is all about. Yeah. So that's awesome, man. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like you're going outside your comfort zone. So I love that. All right, bro, man.
My name is Ewan Morris. I'm a psychology major. So my question to you is, out of every topic you've discussed this semester, which do you think is the most controversial?
Oh, damn. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean...
No, but hang on. Let me just say this. None of them are controversial to me. Right? Like that's what, hang on. Then listen. That's what allows me to do this, because nothing's controversial to me. But I don't, I had to ask other people for that. But which one do you think?
I think the most controversial thing that was discussed was back towards the beginning, whenever we were discussing how in African countries, you have different dialects, you have different languages and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you're comparing it to how in white type countries, like European countries, you have the same thing, but people don't really realize how whenever it comes to Africa and how it's the same as any other continent in the world, a lot of people just don't realize that, like, there's different, like, cultures and stuff like that. They all just kind of mesh it into one culture.
Dude, okay, look, man, it's really cool that you're bringing this up, because what happened with that particular class, I think we called it the Africans or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I thought, okay, someone's going to kick back. So I got messages from different people in Africa who are like, oh man, thanks for talking about this. That's really cool. It's cool to see your students talk about it. I didn't see any controversy at all on that, and I thought there might be, actually. Mm-hmm. Nor did I see it with the class that we called the Indians, which I thought we might have. But yeah, no, I didn't see it. It could have, bro, that class on the Africans would have gone south had I not, if I didn't know the issues in the way that I know the issues. We could have gone south.
Yeah, and I remember there was that situation that you had created where you had a group of African Americans sitting at a restaurant table, and then you had a group of white people sitting at a restaurant table, and they were supposed to create stereotypes that each group had thought about each other.
Wait, that I did that?
Yeah, or there was something similar, something like that. I don't know. It was the same idea. It might not have been that exact thing, but it was the same concept.
I don't remember actually, but
I didn't think it was a bad idea. I thought it was interesting. It was just.
Here's the thing, bro. Ewan, here's the thing. What I find is that when you have honest, open conversations about even the most controversial issues, that people are okay with it.
Yeah.
And like once in a while, we'll get I'll have a class where last semester we had this class on Israel and Palestine, and it had this really awesome conversation. But, and there were so many comments about that class. It had hundreds of thousands of views, right? And the comments were like, oh my God, I can't believe college students are talking about this issue. I can't believe you got people with different perspectives to actually sit down and have a normal, thoughtful conversation. Okay, wait, hang on one second. And so, but what happened was everyone's like, oh my God, that's cool, that's great, this is so good to see, I'm so happy, I have hope for da-da. And then one person is like, that's horrible, you should never put those students in that kind of situation, and they sent an email to the university. And I'm like, fuck. I mean, you have thousands of people being like, oh, that's so awesome, that's so cool, the students enjoyed it, everyone enjoyed it, but one person. And so that's the problem. Everything is potentially controversial.
And that makes sense, because if everybody is being entirely open and honest, and it's not meant to hurt or degrade or increase their own ego, it's meant to find a solution and create conversation, like you said, then there really shouldn't be an issue. And if you're at a college level and you don't understand, then that's not good.
Well, that's right. But you have to also trust that I'm capable of taking many, many different sides.
Yeah, that's true.
And the problem is, if you're in the classroom day after day, you have a sense of that. But not people don't always have that, and people have their expectations, and so you just have to. I, for example, just have thick skin, so it doesn't. I'm okay with it, but yeah, no, that's good, man.
And there's a lot of people out there. There's probably a lot of people in this classroom that can't take listening to other people's opinions and listening to the full spectrum.
But less in here. It's just like Doug said, but definitely a lot of people out there. But dude, my thing to you is just don't be one of them, man.
Oh, for sure I won't. I was raised too well for that.
All right, that's cool, man. Like when you make comments on things, just make sure you make don't make off-the-cuff comments, because you never know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, true.
Dude, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Doug. Do we have a question from the stream yet? Do we? All right, hang on. Let me take that first, and then, bro, you're gonna come up. Bro, you can just come up right now, actually, while we're waiting. All right, from across the pond, what message do you want people from other countries to have about America's current political climate? Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. All right, hang on. What do I want to say, bro? Pray for me right now, all right? I want to say something. Pray for me. Look, it's not as crazy as it seems, okay? That to be reminded that our government, we have millions of people that work in the government, okay? Millions. If we include all the military and everybody, it's millions and millions of people. And if we include federal, state, county, and local, it's many, many millions of people. So when you talk about the U.S. government, recognize you're talking about millions and millions of people, okay? Everything's actually pretty steady. People just do their jobs. In Washington, D.C., people in the Justice Department and the State Department and this department, that department, it's just filled with bureaucrats who are just doing their jobs day in and day out, day in and day out, okay? So the part of when we think about the political climate, understand that what we're talking about, sometimes it's what it seems to be on the outside and what it is actually happening on the inside can be very different things, okay? It's like the news. So news is always appears negative and bad because that's why it's news. So most of the United States, the vast majority of the United States, vast, is just like what you see in this classroom. People are just having conversations. And so, all right. All right, dog. Oh, wait.
Hi everyone, my name is Hamza. I'm a third-year student majoring in cybersecurity. So I know that you've had a lot of experiences with different religions. Well, my main question, so I'm a Muslim. But my main question is, what made you? So I'm assuming that you have went out and read about Islam, because you cannot be clueless in this world. You have to go out and seek knowledge.
Yeah.
What made you doubt Islam?
Oh, what made me doubt? So even after I converted,
Yes.
you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I converted, and then I left. You know, the guy that converted me was a Sufi sheikh, man. And this dude was, whew. Okay, so what made me doubt? Bro, the problem is, I can't get past the idea that religions, I can't get past it. I try, but I cannot get past the idea that religions are human creations, okay? And I wish I didn't have that. I swear, I wish I could find a religion that other people that I could enjoy with other people, and which, by the way, probably would be Sikhism, by the way. Do you know anything about the Sikhs?
Yeah, I wrote a general
Dude,
description
Sikhism
about it.
is cool, man. I mean, it is just, if you're an environmentalist, the Sikhs, if you believe in helping the poor, the Sikhs got it all. If you believe, one thing after another, man, Sikhism is just like, oh my God. So, but I can't get past I just cannot get past the idea that these things are all human creations. And I wish I didn't have that. I have prayed to the gods the gods that exist, the gods I imagine exist, the gods that don't exist, whatever it is, to try to just open my crown chakra so I could go, but I can't. But I will say that Islam, in terms of the ability to celebrate and pray with others in the way that happens in Islam, man, I love that, dude.
So do you believe that there's one God or multiple gods?
I don't answer that question, yeah, because for me it's more like what I was talking about with Doug here. It's like, it's just energy, you know? Like, I can't envision a creator God that in any way seems like us.
So you think that all religions are human creation?
Well, I don't know that to be true, but I can't get past the idea that I think it might be true. You see, there's a difference there.
Okay, but in Islam, there's a lot of scientific facts in the Quran where they have found out after.
Yeah.
So don't you think that's a...
No, like I have this book on the, is it the 7, what is it, the 13? No, 17. Damn. But there was this Muslim scholar who sent me a lot of books on this, actually, what you're referencing. It's very cool, man. It's very cool. But it didn't lead me to cross the line, but I tried. I wanted to. Yeah. Do you know what I mean when I say I wanted to?
I mean, if it's from your heart or from your head, Like if you're
Both, yeah, both. I try to open my heart as much as possible, and I need then to open my heart and my head. Yeah, it's hard, it's difficult, man. You know, and I really I'm as close to as I can possibly be to wanting there to be something that's just awesome and I can put together in a single belief system.
So what do you think is really holding you back from going to full-on belief?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe it will one day I will just have the experience. You know, at the time that I was an avowed atheist till I had those mushrooms in the mountains in Mexico back in 1986, and that just blew my world open. And then I knew, like, dude, you're an idiot. You think you understand the world, and you don't understand the world. So stop ever imagining that you have the answer. And then I started a quest for truth. Yeah.
So you went out and seek knowledge. So I'm talking specifically about Islam. So
yeah,
you went out and seek knowledge about Islam, the scientific facts, and
yeah, as much as I could though. But I hit walls because it's not just about science. It's not just about the mind. It's also about there's something else that has to go. You have to have a faith.
I mean, if you look at it, I remember you praised the way how you've seen Muslims pray, and you praised how faithful they are in prayer.
Yeah, but you have, in the end, it boils down to faith. You got to have faith in something, because in the end, you can't see it. You can't know it. You can't say, like, I believe this book is true, and therefore it's true, and I believe it's true because it is true. It's just a tautology that goes around. In the end, you got to have faith. And so, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was really that Allah really gave truth to the Prophet Muhammad. You got to have faith in that, man. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. So it all depends on faith. And that's the most beautiful part of a belief system is faith. Yeah. So it's not about the science alone. It's got to include the faith.
So this is specifically about Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
The reason,
Wait, this is a different question?
No, it's kind of related to faith.
All right.
So
yeah.
there's a video where a rabbi talks about the reason that Israel could not go up to Gaza. And the difference is that he mentioned it himself, that the difference between the Palestinian people, or specifically the Gazans, that they are willing to die for God due to their faith.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
that's a pretty big statement, a bold statement, yeah.
it is the truth though.
No, well, listen though. You understand that rabbis though are like imams. They're like Christian ministers. Anybody can be one. So anybody can be one and say anything. And like, yeah, all right. I could be one. I could be anything I want and say whatever I want. It doesn't mean that it has more value. Just like anybody can be a professor. But it says something, man. But I don't think it's entirely true. It's true of everybody, man. Every religion has the same thing. People are willing to die, which is kind of bizarre if you think about it. But if you believe so strongly in a God, which I don't mind people dying for their God, my problem is when they kill other people for the God. Then I'm like, yo, man, when your God tells you that other people are bad or you need to kill other people, then you got to question your God, man. You know what I mean?
Who are you specifically talking about?
Well, everybody, man. Buddhists, Hindus right now killing Muslims because, Christians killing people, Muslims killing people, everybody, man. Jews killing people. It's like, come on, man. It's like you got to be pretty certain that you've created that God in your own image when the God is telling you to do things that you yourself believe in. It's when the God tells you to go do something completely opposite of what you believe. That's when you say like, oh shit, maybe God's speaking to me. But that rarely happens. People, their gods tell them to do the things they already believe in. So that's my problem. So if the God says go out and make less money and give all your money, whatever it is, I don't know, So, but I appreciate your question, man. I really do appreciate the question. I've thought about it myself. Yeah. I remember the first time I prayed in the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. Dude, man, when I lined up with all the other men, I just it was cool, man. It was cool. And I said, I get this. Yeah, that was really, really cool.
So
Anyway.
it's just a personal problem with you. It's just like something that's holding you back.
Yeah, but who knows? I might bust through it, man. I don't know. Just like this conversation
Yeah.
might lead me in a year from now to, because everything they just talked about in this classroom, I take it with me and I work on it. I've been transformed many, many times. Yeah, I'm open to anything. That's what allows me to do the class, because I'm really open to anything. Yeah. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, nice question. Dude, I love that. And by the way, dude, you have a radio voice, man.
Sam, I have a quick question for you.
All right.
What exactly is it that you believe in, if you're not an atheist, and how does that shape your perception of life?
First off, man, I don't know what I believe. I don't know what I believe in, honestly. Honestly, it's so complex that I don't have a belief. It's too complex, man. So it would take me. I'd have to write a whole book, and by the time I got to the end of the book, I'd start it over again with something completely different. Yeah, honestly. So I don't have it. Yeah. I wish I did. Yeah. Because sometimes it gets really difficult to be in a position where I can't stand on really firm ground, and it's very difficult. Yeah. Do we have another question? Stat enthusiast. Thanks for that question, by the way. Do we have another? What message do you want people from other countries? Wait, we did that already. America's current. Wait, we did that one, right? Yeah, that we already had. That was. Do you have another question? Yeah, that's the same question. So someone has to figure. Hey, who else? Wait, we don't have. Who else has a? Dude.
All right, my question is more general. How do you think people should be approaching talking about different topics that they're not proficient in? So if you're not a politician or someone studying politics, how much should you be speaking about that? How much should you let your emotions get involved to talk about it, or it be religion as well? If you're not some religious preacher, how often should you get involved in speaking to represent those people?
So here's the thing. There's no shoulds in my world, right? I can't do the shoulds, because if I do the shoulds, I can't. In teaching a class like this, of this dynamic, I'd leave them out of my.
Why is that?
Because there's too many. I don't know what people should do. You know what I mean? I don't even know that you should go study the world. You don't have to study the world. Go get a little plot of land and never leave your plot of land. You don't have to learn anything about the world. You don't have to do anything. There's nothing. Do whatever it is that makes you feel good, and that maybe if it doesn't harm other people, that's fine.
I think that last point you said about if it doesn't harm other people, do you think that when someone speaks about something that they're not experienced in, that they can harm other people? Okay,
so here, definitely, man. I was listening to this guy he's some blogger, and he's to the right of Donald Trump. And God, the stuff he was talking about, how Asians and Indians, East Asians and South Asians can't be Americans. They don't accept the United States. They are not. I'm paraphrasing him, but this is essentially what the guy said. They don't accept being an American. They will never be Americans. They will never have an allegiance here. They're brown people. They will never be part of this country, and we need to stop letting them in. And many of those who are in here, we need to kick them out. And the guy he's putting information out there. And Donald Trump took one of these big things and he posted it on his own Truth Social thing. And I'm like, dude, first off, it's just dangerous, it's problematic, and it creates divisions that there are already enough people here. We are a multicultural world. We don't need those kinds of divisions. That is a problem. We don't want a war. We don't want a race war. We don't want any war. It's like, we need to stop this nonsense, man. And so it's like, don't do that. And so there's my, like, I'm going to say, like, in that case, don't do that. It's a problem. But you're doing it, so again, now I'm standing up against the should thing. Should the guy be allowed to do it? Yeah, he should be allowed to do it, but like, come on, man. And maybe other people can read that stuff and say like, oh, that's pretty terrible. And I don't know, like, I don't know. You see, it's just a problem.
Right.
I see that stuff and my heart just weeps for it.
Do you have advice for us when it comes to talking about this or seeing it online?
Yeah, know that no matter what you say, no, just how about just random issues, right? No matter, you see, the fact that that guy has those ideas, that might actually be the thing that leads to a great openness of humanity here in the United States. So I'm like, yeah, maybe he needs to post more of that. And so people can push up against that kind of thinking so that then they can say, wait, we don't want that, let's go over here. You know, like, so we don't know what the future is, but what I would say is, yeah, for everybody in here, it's fine to have opinions. You're young, you need to have opinions, you need to have thoughts about things. You need to test your opinions out with other people. It's good to test them out. Get into arguments with your friends. You should be sitting in your dorm rooms or apartments and having arguments with people, man. Like, that's how you learn. That's how you really build your intellect. But recognize that no matter what you say, there's a perspective out there that's opposite of that perspective, that's also very reasonable, thoughtful, and smarter in different ways than your own perspective. And like, yep, that's how it is. And that's how it is for me. That's why I'm very careful about what I say, because I know that I'm potentially wrong about everything. Well, I am wrong about everything, because I could make the opposite argument of whatever I say. So just like I did with the guy, I'm like, dude, don't. Michael Savage is the guy's name. Like, oh my God. But I don't know, man, maybe 10 years we'll look back and we'll be like, oh, thank God for that whole way of thinking, because it opened up something in this country. And I don't know. So we should be open to listen to people. You definitely got to be open to listen to people, man. Yeah, you got to be so open, man. Yeah. I am. There's no one I'm not open to. Yeah. Yeah. All right. What do we have one from?
I was wondering, a few weeks ago you talked about how you're more interested in seeing why people come to political conclusions than having your own political ideas and discussions about them.
Uh-huh.
I was wondering, because we've never really heard it for you, do you have a personal political philosophy, and like, what do you think the role of government is?
Dude.
Not in a partisan, like,
No,
American
I
way,
got
just
you, but
globally.
You listen to me. Do you think I have a political philosophy? Or do you think I'm just mentally ill?
I think you have a philosophy that you don't like to share.
Yeah, I don't, man. I don't. Yeah. I will tell you this. Wait, what's your name?
Sebastian.
Sebastian. Here's the thing. So I'm a sociologist, okay? Which means that I study the ways in which outside factors and forces shape our behavior. So I want to know things like, hey, like, listen, man, this guy, I want to know, where did he grow up? How much money his parents made? Where his friends were? Who mentored him? How many millionaires he's ever? I want to know the ways in which his life has been shaped by things outside of his control. And then I make connections between things, and it finds out, like, yeah, you know what, if your parents go to college, you're more likely to go to college. And if this, then that, and this, then that. That's what we do as sociologists. It's not causality purely, but we start to understand the boundaries of causality, okay? Which means then, and I can say, like, hey, you know what? People whose parents don't go to college, they don't necessarily get a fair shake in the world. So it's like, like, they're going to go to better schools, they're going to get higher SAT scores, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And it's like, well, what do you do with people who don't have that? Well, maybe we got to step in and, like, help them out a little bit. So you see the potential is there always to intervene and try to do things to change the world in some way. So I have that in me. That's what I study. That's who I am, right? Go fix it. 64-ounce sodas. bad idea, man. It's diabetes, it's obesity. It's a bad idea, man. Stop allowing places to sell 64-ounce sodas and people's health will increase. I understand that. That's how it works, okay? So because of that, I register as a libertarian. And I read lots of libertarian things. Because the libertarian is where you want as much independence and individualism as possible. Like, don't shape anything. Let limited government, let people just be free to do the things they need to do. So I lean that way because I'm so steeped in this over here, I have to spend a lot of time with this libertarian ideas so that I can be balanced in the middle. So I'm a registered libertarian, okay? But that doesn't mean, but I almost never vote for libertarians because when I read anything they say or listen to them, they're all nuts. You know what I mean? All right.
Do you think there's any side effects or like negative consequences of you looking at people in the world in like a sociological way where you're like classifying and looking at characteristics and traits and stuff like that?
No, we need that. We need sociologists, man. That's how we get to where we are. You know what I mean? Like sociology teaches us. Like those of you in the classroom who have eating disorders, there are people in here who are anorexic. You have eating disorders. Well, there's a whole movement in this country, in the world, the West certainly, also in the East, to deal with eating disorders. It's a thing. Well, you owe that to the sociologists who started putting two and two together and like, oh, okay, yeah, well, no, we need that. And they said, now we have to come together and we have to address this problem collectively. The libertarians would say, no, you don't. Like, we're not going to spend any tax dollars on that. Like, let people deal with it on their own. It's like, nah, So that's why you got to have that. You got to have it all.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, what do we have here? Stat enthusiasts. It seems like there are limits on what people feel they can question about topics like mass migration, diversity, and multiculturalism. What topics are considered open for debate? Which ones are? Everything is open for debate. Everything is open for debate. Well, not whether it's okay to mass murder people. I mean, there are so not everything, but within, you understand the debate. So in this classroom, the things that would be stimulating it's open for debate. Like, for example, the mass migration. Maybe we got to just close it down, close all the borders down 100%, man. Hey, yeah, we can go ahead and make an argument for that. I can make an argument for that. Yeah. Bro.
Hi. My question is kind of similar to this. One thing I find so interesting about this class is the amount of change that we've seen in the news since it started at the beginning of the semester and then where we are now. Like, it seemed like ICE was a much bigger issue back then, and now it's kind of changed into something else.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for us who may be deeply unsettled by a certain issue that comes in this passing wave to kind of hold on to? Or how do we resist against like the constant fluctuation of news and actually find some meaningful change on issues that come and go?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase my colleague, Professor Eric Silver, who teaches in the class after us. Don't panic, man. Don't get wigged out. Don't panic. It's all part of it. Like, just don't panic. Yeah. And just be careful about thinking the world's coming to an end. The world's been coming to an end for thousands of years. You know what I mean? It's you're all right. So you gotta go through these cycles a lot. Yeah. How'd I do? Was that all right? Was that good? All right. Do we have another? Wait, hang on. Do you have another one online? So does someone have a personal question? Ecuadorian asks, what would you want someone like myself from another country to know about America if they've been fed negative information? Yeah, the number one thing that you see is the U.S. hasn't changed. Nothing has changed, okay? It's no different than when we elected Obama into office, and everyone thought, oh my God, the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, and like now we have Trump, and now it hasn't changed. Things don't change. We're all in the U.S. is the U.S. So don't read that. It's just like in Ecuador. It's like, oh my God, the drug gangs have taken over. No, they haven't. They're not in Cuenca, where I used to live, for example. They're not in lots of places. But it's just, yeah, I would say that. Don't. Dude.
If you were invited to the White House tomorrow, and you had 15 minutes in the Oval Office in front of Trump, Vance, Rubio, and Hegseth, what would you talk to them about?
Dude, oh my God. Something completely normal, like nothing political. I would probably talk to them about coffee or something. I already know what their thoughts are. I want to just share a coffee with them. I want to just experience the ways in which they're normal human beings who are thoughtful as everybody else. Yeah. That's all I care about. You know what I mean? Like, I'd talk to Trump about golf. Yeah. Yeah. Can you really shoot your age, President Trump? That's what I would do. Yeah, because people are just people, Yeah. Yeah. Dude.
As somebody who's been all over the world and who's been to many cities, what do you think your favorite country you've been to is? What do you think the favorite city you've been to is? And who do you think favorite person you've talked to while just out and about is? 3 questions.
Dude, I don't have a favorite country. Okay. I really don't. I wish I did. Because everyone is its own unique world.
Give me a couple, or,
Well, I have to say Korea right now because I have a special relationship with Korea, but Ecuador is that was my first home country. Yeah, the first adopted country. Spain was my first love. That's the first place where I lived abroad. So Spain is just like, but the most special country in an odd way is probably Haiti, where I've been 9 or 10 times. There's something about Haiti and Haitians that is just, you cannot comprehend. Yeah. I can't explain it either. You just would have to go.
And then favorite cities you've been to?
Okay, Madrid, because that's my first city I lived in outside the U.S. I love Madrid. Okay? Is that it?
And then the favorite person you've just met out and about in the world? Not someone you scheduled to meet or interview, just out and about, the coolest person you've met.
The one that had the most profound impact on me. How about that one? I was walking down a rural road in Nicaragua back during the Civil War, and I came upon this house, and I walked, and there was this woman sitting on her porch. The house was half blown away because it was the middle of the war, and the whole front part of the house was gone. And she said, "Hey, gringo, ¿dónde vas?" And I'm like, fuck. So I sat down. I went over and I sat down on her steps, and she was there, and I was here, and we're talking. What are you doing? And I was there by myself. I walked in from San Jose. And then I got a ride from the guy to this town. I got a ride from the guy who was the roommate of Roberto Clemente, the baseball player back in the day, right? So we started talking about the Civil War. And she was old. Looked like she was 90. She might have been 80, And this was her house. This was her life. And we were part of this war. We were the one that was funding the bombs that blew her house up, And she said to me, as we talked, and I told her I was a teacher, and I was still a graduate student at the time, and she said, "Look, you need to make a promise to me." And I said, "Okay, what's the promise?" And she said, "You need to always, always talk to your students about what's going on outside the United States. They need to have some idea of what's happening." This was an old woman who probably never went past 6th grade, okay? And I made an agreement with her. I said, "I promise you I will do that." And I have never forgotten her, And my whole life, every time I talk about international issues, I think of her. And I don't have a photo of her because I didn't have a camera. But she's in my mind, right? And so it's really funny how this person lives. People like that can live in you like that. And so I would say that. She's a person who maybe has had some of the most profound impact on my life.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a cool question. Huh. Yeah, bro.
What aspect of your childhood or upbringing do you believe led to you being so open-minded and like able to challenge thoughts and that kind of stuff? And how do you believe that we promote that amongst like the next generation and other people?
Dude, when I cannot explain to you enough how much about the world I didn't know. I didn't have any idea. And I had to start school and start work and of all the other graduate students, I was behind. I was always the last one because I was always trying to catch up because I didn't have any education in me, right? So everywhere I went, everywhere I turned, everything I did, I had to acknowledge that I was the dumbest person in the room. Not the dumbest, but the unenlightened, the less educated, the less whatever. So it made me really humble because I had to always be the person who would recognize that I don't know. And I would never be able to speak because I didn't have any answers to anything when everybody else had answers. So now that followed me through with teaching because I discovered that you could actually be a really cool teacher if you don't have answers to anything. And so all right. So then I brought that into my teaching that I didn't know and I couldn't know and I had no idea. And so that's what I would just say. And then I met some people along the way who are absolutely brilliant. And I had to acknowledge day in and day out that most people I encounter who are, thinkers are more brilliant than I am. And then it became so easy to acknowledge that it became a badge of honor that I pat myself and say, that's pretty cool. I don't have to compete with anybody. Yeah. That's my answer to that question.
Do you think there's aspects of other societies that promote this more?
No, not
push it
really.
more?
I think we actually in the U.S. do some education systems do. For example, in Scandinavian countries, they do, yeah. A lot of the European countries do. East Asia, they don't. East Asian, they're trying to get the answer, so. But yeah, I think some people do. Russia, strangely enough, so I've had a bit of experience in Russia. They actually promote a fair amount of critical thinking, man. It's pretty cool, the education systems. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah. I think we gotta, hey, listen, can I say this? I really appreciate it. Thanks for the questions. And I do want to say, once again, thanks everyone for volunteering and being part of this, man, because it's so awesome. Can we have a round of applause again to you all? Yeah.